How's it going, guys? Wanted to make one of my first cooking videos for you guys. I don't think I've explicitly stated it on the channel, but I do follow a vegan diet. I don't necessarily consider myself a vegan. There's a lot more attached to that phrase as far as being a vegan, but I do follow a vegan diet, specifically a whole food, plant-based, no oil diet. That's a big mouthful. Nobody knows what it means. It basically means everything I eat is a plant that grows out of the ground. I try to avoid any preservatives, especially any chemicals or additives, colors, added sweeteners, things like that, as well as oils. And so the cooking you're going to see me do today is going to be oil-free cooking. And it's a pretty simple one. I'll do a longer video about the diet and my principles and things, as well as how I do my grocery shopping and things like that. But I never try to do vegan replacements when it comes to food. I don't do like a tofurkey or a vegan crumbles to replace roast beef or anything like that. I've only been a vegan. We're coming up on 3 years, so I know the difference between a beef hamburger and a vegan burger and a black bean burger and those things. Like, my palate knows the difference. So I don't try to do anything with my diet as just to take what I used to eat and just eat a vegan version of it, because there's still a lot of vegan junk food and things out there that have a lot of preservatives and oils and sweeteners and things like that in it, which is one of the major things I'm trying to avoid. But today I am going to be making tacos. Really two main components to the tacos, and one is the meat that you would use, and then the other would be the sauce. And what you find with a lot of recipes when you learn about cooking and tasting food and how it works, that the sauce is really where a lot of the flavor comes from, and whether it's meat or vegetables have their own flavors. Vegetables actually have a lot of flavor, different flavors, and they help carry the sauce. So for this one, instead of using like chicken or ground beef for these tacos, I'm actually just using, it's pretty simple, mushrooms and onions. There's a portobello and regular mushrooms in there, and diced up onion. This recipe specifically comes from the Happy Herbivore series of books. A lot of great easy recipes. The only thing I find about them is that the portion sizes tend to be small, so this is actually double a recipe of what's in the Happy Herbivore. I believe it's the Everyday Happy Herbivore, the quick and easy one of those two. But really the only thing that I've already chopped my mushrooms and onions. It calls for all portobello, but it's a little expensive, so I got portobello and just regular white button mushrooms in there. And then onion, and then Worcestershire sauce. I had to look up the pronunciation of that because I can never get it right, and I still don't think I'm doing it right. In the book, there's a recipe for vegan Worcestershire, because the normal traditional store brands have anchovies in them. You can buy a vegan brand or a vegetarian brand. It's a pretty simple recipe. You just whisk things together, and it's good to go. You don't have to cook anything, so it's pretty simple. So I just went ahead and made my own. So I've got that. And then there's going to be a taco sauce, which I've already got all the ingredients, most of the ingredients in the pan for that. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to saute up these mushrooms and onions in the Worcestershire. So I won't be, usually when you're cooking stuff on a skillet, you would add oil to the skillet. Well, in our whole food plant-based diet without the oil, we tend to saute everything either in just a little bit of water or maybe a little vegetable stock, or in this case the sauce. And doing that, you have to cook at a lower temperature, so sometimes things do take a little bit longer to cook because you have to cook at a lower temperature. But that's really the only difference. You do have to learn just to be a little more careful with what you cook in order to avoid from burning things. It was a lesson I learned the first few dishes I cooked. But it's not much different. The oil just makes it more convenient and cook faster. And so once you learn some of these things, it's a lot easier to make changes in your diet. So what I've got here, this is, like I said, I'm doing a double of the recipe, 2 tablespoons of a low sodium soy sauce. There's still a lot of salt in there. That's another thing I try to avoid, is anything with salt in it. If there's an option to get stuff without salt, I do. And soy sauce is, mostly sodium, so low sodium is about as good as I can do on that. And then the Worcestershire is in there. The recipe does call for Nutritional yeast. Great flavor, but it does tend to have a lot of stuff in it. And there's really, the only store that carries it is one of the fancy health food stores, and they charge a lot of money for it. And the only other store that carries it is about 35 miles away from me, so I don't have Nutritional yeast very often. So I just put a little extra Worcestershire in there. And we're going to go ahead and add a few other things that the recipe calls for. And if you do a lot of cooking, vegan cooking, and this style of vegan cooking, you're gonna run into this a lot, is onions and garlic. Onion and garlic, whether it's in whole form or powdered form, tends to be in a lot of recipes. It's a lot of great flavor. So we're gonna do just a 1/4 teaspoon. Actually, I forgot, double recipe, so we're gonna make that a 1/2 teaspoon. There's the onion. Onion and garlic. So pretty easy so far. There's only 4 ingredients in there. I'm going to go ahead and turn this on to kind of a medium-high heat. So I've got that all mixed around. I've got the heat on. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more, full on medium-high. The instructions say to bring it to a boil. It's a pretty thin layer in there. So if I bring it to a boil, it's going to boil off real quickly. So that's kind of one of those things you just need to be watchful of, is that you're really just bringing things up to heat. It helps things mix together well. And we enjoy hot food. While that's heating up, I'm going to go over one other thing that I'm serving, because this is going to be for tacos. I've already got my diced up romaine lettuce and my tomatoes. Whatever kind of lettuce you like in your salad. Iceberg tends to be the most nutrient devoid. So really avoid iceberg. I like romaine because it's heartier. It holds up in the fridge for a few days longer than just regular green or red lettuce. I've got refried beans here. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on for those. Oh, it's already starting to boil. It goes quickly. So now we're going to go ahead and toss in these onions and mushrooms. Oh, you know what? I am forgetting one thing. I knew this was looking funny. I forgot the water. So yeah, always fully read your instructions. There's one thing you'll notice from a lot of these recipes, though, is that it's really hard to really truly mess them up unless you burn them. So I forgot to put the water and bring it to a boil, but it'll be fine. I'm just going to stir it up a little extra in here. And we're going to get that cooking. All right, back to what I was talking about with the refried beans. You can you can mash up your own just pinto beans in a food processor and use those. If you buy beans, you'll find a couple different options. Regular refried beans will have, either fat or oil, or even, traditionally they have lard in them. So if you're trying to avoid animal products, they do make vegetarian refried beans, but what they do with that instead is they put soybean oil in them. So I like to go with the fat-free, because with the fat-free, there's no lard or animal fat in it, and there's no oil in it. So that's just one other thing to look for when you're buying these. That's mean fat-free. It's going to help avoid those oils as well as animal products. And again, refried beans, pretty easy. All you're doing is heating them up. And in a lot of recipes that I'll be doing on this channel, most of what I eat simply just needs to be heated up. Only a few things are actually truly cooked. Like potatoes and carrots, but you can eat carrots raw, so you don't have to cook carrot, or green pepper, but the recipe just may call for it. So we're just going to heat that up, leave that down on low heat. While I'm waiting to bring this back up to a boil, I'm going to work on the taco sauce that is in the Happy Herbivore. Canned beans and tomatoes are the other two big culprits when it comes for looking for no salt. Sometimes you have to search for it, but for most tomato canned products, you can find a no salt added version to help reduce that sodium intake. When you do cook foods, there's nothing wrong with eating salt, but I found that even if the food, ingredients have salt in them, if salt is an ingredient in the dish, we still end up putting salt on top of it as a condiment. So I figure just cut out that as an ingredient, just no salt added. Just simply when you're done, when you're ready to eat, put a little salt on top and your taste buds will get all the salt you want, and it cuts down on that sodium intake. This taco sauce that we're making here is just a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce, a 1/3 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin, and a 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. And you're simply just going to mix that up and heat it up. Cumin is a spice that I'll use a lot, as well as oregano, Italian seasonings, and herbs. So that just needs to be brought up to heat. And then we're going to cook this until the water is evaporated. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'll catch up to you here in a couple minutes. Alright, as you can see, the water has all boiled off. It's all cooked off. It smells really great. The sauce, again, I only had to cook it for about 5 minutes just to get it hot and warm and all mixed up. Just a little bit evaporated, then I turned the heat off. The beans are already warmed up, so they're turned off. I'm just going to boil off the very last bit of this. Important key, again, because there's no oil. Again, this is a non-stick skillet, but I still don't want anything to burn, so I'm going to keep mixing this as the last bit of that water evaporates off. And you can see a lot of the steam. It's definitely evaporating off pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. So I can get a little better view for you here. And we've got that. Just onions and mushrooms all mixed up in those sauces. Alright, now for the fun part. We're going to go ahead and put some tacos together. Alright, pretty simple. I'll just do one for you. I think you can figure it out from there. See, there we are. It's just nice piping hot mushrooms and onions in there. And we're going to throw on some lettuce and tomatoes. Alright, add a little dollop of that guacamole in there. Let's go ahead and add some of that taco sauce. Alright, there we have our Happy Herbivore Bella tacos. You can add anything else you want to it if you want a little more red onions or any other vegetables that you love on your tacos, maybe some radish for kind of that street taco taste. I'm going to go enjoy these. I've got my refried beans as well. I'll put that on there. You guys have a good day, and I will see you next time with some more cooking videos. Because you want to get as much of the fluid out of there. It helps concentrate the flavor in the food as well as it keeps it from being less soggy once we're making tacos. Because soggy tacos aren't any good.